Have you ever felt like someone left you, but somehow never really did? They don't call, they don't text, they don't ask you to come back. Yet somehow, you still feel their presence. They watch your stories. They post a song that sounds like a message. They write a caption that feels like a ghost of what you once had. And you ask yourself, do they still care? Or am I imagining all of this? If you've ever been in a relationship with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, you know this feeling all too well, being chased in silence. They don't run after you, but they don't really let you go. They don't love you in a way you can see, but somehow you still feel it just out of reach. In today's video, we're going to explore a topic that most people don't talk about, but it might explain the invisible patterns in your relationships, how avoidants chase and why you never realize it. They don't chase with words. They chase with quiet presence, unspoken longing, and distant observation. If you've ever been exhausted by the mixed signals, tired of interpreting their silence, this video will help you separate what's real from what's just the echo of their fear. Hit subscribe and stay until the end, because sometimes all it takes is understanding one emotional pattern to stop doubting yourself. You thought they forgot you, but then, one random night, they send a song, a track you once shared together. No words, no explanation. Just a melody, sent like it means nothing, yet feels like everything. And suddenly, you're caught between two thoughts. Are they reaching out, or just playing with my emotions? With someone who has an avoidant attachment style, chasing doesn't happen in the usual way. They don't run after you. They don't knock on your heart with big words or direct presence. They hover like a familiar breeze you thought had passed, but it's still lingering, quietly, around you. They like an old post. Watch your story without saying a word, or post a quote vague enough to make you wonder, is that about me? This isn't manipulation. It's a survival reflex learned from years of believing that showing emotion equals getting hurt. So they send signals, but they're encrypted. They want to know, are you still there? Do you still respond? But they're not safe enough to ask directly. They don't need a loud reply. They just need to feel that if they come a little closer, you won't push them away. This is the stage where most people get confused and start blaming themselves. You don't know if it's love or just habit, but for someone avoidant, this invisible orbit is often their quiet confession. I'm not ready to come close, but I can't fully leave either. If you've ever been caught in that gray zone, constantly second-guessing what it means, know this. It's not that you're overthinking. It's that they're trying to love in a language that was programmed by fear. Here's something most people never realize. Avoidants crave connection just as deeply as anyone else. But every time that craving rises, fear rises even faster. It's a paradox they live in. The closer they want to be, the further they pull away. Imagine walking toward a warm room where someone you love is waiting. But with every step forward, an alarm goes off in your head. Not because the person is dangerous, but because your nervous system has been wired to believe closeness equals getting hurt. That's what it feels like for someone with an avoidant attachment style. Love doesn't bring comfort, it brings alertness. And ironically, it's when they disappear, withdraw, or go cold that they're often thinking about you the most. This is what confuses many people. If they miss me, why don't they come closer? Because for them, missing someone isn't an invitation to get close, it's a reason to step away. The more they want, the more out of control they feel. The more they long for connection, the more they fear being shattered by it. So they retreat even while their heart leans in. But when they retreat, that's when the silent chase begins. While you're convinced they've moved on, they're replaying your conversations, remembering small things about you, the way you laugh when nervous, how you fold your clothes, the way one of your little quirks made their heart soften. But they won't text. They won't call. They won't say it out loud, because saying it makes it real, and that makes it dangerous. So instead, they keep it all inside. In stories they silently watch, in playlists they never delete, in messages they write but never send. We often mistake avoidance for indifference. But in truth, avoidance is care wrapped in fear. They care deeply, but they don't yet know how to hold love without losing themselves in it. And until they do, the only way they know how to protect the thing they want most is to run from it. This is the quiet grief of a mind that doesn't feel safe, not because they don't feel, but because they don't yet feel safe enough to feel out loud. So if an avoidant once pulled away from you, remember this. They didn't leave because they didn't love you. They left because love made them feel too exposed. When an avoidant comes back into your life in subtle, almost invisible ways, it can feel confusing, even hurtful. They don't say anything clearly. No apology, no explanation, no honest question like, "Are you still there for me?" Instead, you notice they liked your story, or maybe hearted a post you just made. Sometimes they share a song or quote that eerily mirrors something the two of you once shared. No tag, no mention, just a vague echo that feels personal. You wonder, is this about me? Am I imagining things? That's the emotional gray zone, where your heart is caught between hope and self-protection. But if you were once meaningful to an avoidant, know this: those signals are not random. They're checking for your presence, not because they're ready to return, but because they need to know if you're still emotionally safe to approach when they finally gather the courage. For an avoidant, reconnecting is not just a romantic decision, it's a survival risk. That space needs to feel safe. No pressure, no judgment, no emotional cheios. So instead of asking, "Are you still there for me?" they use emotional hints to test the temperature from afar. If you respond maybe with a like, a soft comment, or even just by not blocking them, that's all they need to feel slightly reassured. The door isn't fully closed, but if you go silent or set a firm emotional boundary, they'll vanish quickly. Not because they don't care, but because their nervous system translates that space as unsafe. To them, connection isn't just emotional, it's about survival. They're not chasing intensity, they're chasing control over their inner panic. That's why they come and go, not to play games, but to manage emotional risk. Those subtle signals, they might seem casual, but they are often the most genuine effort they can make at that moment. They're not ready to come in, but they can't fully walk away either. There are moments when you might wonder, why does this person seem to get me so well? Why do their speech patterns, humor, or even music tastes mirror your own? For individuals with avoidant attachment, mirroring your energy is rarely accidental. It's a subtle strategy to maintain connection while protecting themselves. They are not ready to confront their emotions directly, so they use unconscious alignment as a way to approach you without risk of exposure. In psychology, this phenomenon is called mirroring, reflecting the behavior, emotions, or rhythms of another person. Research by Richard D. Lewis et al. 2018 shows that mirroring fosters closeness and understanding and activates feelings of safety in relationships, particularly for emotionally sensitive individuals. For avoidance, mirroring is used not only to make the other person feel secure, but also to test their own emotional boundaries. Imagine someone who once withdrew as intimacy grew. They observe you from afar, noting every detail of how you laugh, speak, or respond to stress. Then, they subtly adjust their behavior to recreate the old emotional connection they once shared, almost like trying to revive a bond that had been broken. This is not a real change in their nature or feelings. It is a protective armor, allowing them to feel close without fully exposing themselves. This can be confusing. You may feel that they have changed, becoming more open, but in reality, their emotional armor remains intact. They still fear rejection and hurt. Only their approach has been carefully adjusted. Clinicians observe that avoidants use mirroring as a self-protective mechanism, blending curiosity with the desire to reconnect. For example, they might start discussing interests you mentioned before or adopt phrasing similar to yours. This is not to catch your attention. It is to test whether you are still a safe presence for them. According to Bowlby's attachment theory, 1988, avoidants develop these precautionary mechanisms early. They learn that emotional closeness is risky, so they must approach subtly. Mirroring becomes a tool to reconnect while maintaining a safe distance. Recognizing this helps you see the value in small, meaningful signals. They are not overtly declaring love, nor attempting control, but testing if you remain a safe space. Understanding this reduces confusion, preventing you from mistaking reflection for a change in character. You also learn to read behavior for meaning rather than surface appearances, which is essential for establishing healthy boundaries with avoidance. Ultimately, mirroring is the silent language of desire and fear. It shows that even if they cannot express directly, their heart is pursuing the connection Recognizing this helps you understand that their return is not random or inconsistent. It is a careful, subtle attempt to keep you close while keeping themselves safe, one of the most genuine and understated forms of pursuit in avoidant attachment. There are subtle signs you can notice. They no longer text or call directly, yet they continue to care in their own way. Individuals with avoidant attachment do not reappear openly. They seek you through curiosity, mutual friends, and seemingly trivial behaviors on social media. They might ask about you indirectly, check your profiles late at night, or quietly hold on to mementos from the past. It's not to control you or intervene in your life, but rather to soothe the fear that they've ruined something important. Research on attachment, Mikulincer and Shaver, 2016, shows that avoidant individuals often face silent guilt and regret after withdrawing from intimate relationships. When they miss someone important, they cannot express it directly for fear of rejection or vulnerability. Instead, they opt for indirect approaches, maintaining contact through safe channels, social media, mutual connections, which allows them to reconnect without confronting their own emotions. Imagine someone quietly scrolling through your stories at midnight, not liking or commenting, just observing. To them, this isn't indifference. It's longing and fear intertwined. They need reassurance that you're okay, happy, and that they haven't truly destroyed what mattered. That's why they hold on to mementos, a photo, an old message, or a gift. These act as psychological bridges, letting them feel connected without facing direct exposure. This behavior can be confusing for others. They sense the person is present but cannot discern intent. It's a classic internal conflict. They desire you but fear losing control. That's why they prefer indirect observation over direct re-engagement. The indirect method serves as emotional protection, letting them regulate vulnerability while maintaining proximity. It's crucial to recognize that these subtle actions are not meaningless or indifferent. They are part of a sophisticated strategy to balance the desire for connection with the fear of exposure. Understanding this prevents confusion and self-blame over mixed signals. Instead, you learn to appreciate small but meaningful gestures, which are how avoidants express care while preserving their protective boundaries. On a broader level, this behavior reflects a humane truth. Emotions aren't always expressed openly. Sometimes love exists in quiet observation and safeguarding, even if unseen. For avoidants, this is a mature form of emotional expression, facing deep fears yet still finding ways to remain connected. Ultimately, if you notice them following you indirectly, remember, it's not apathy or lack of feeling. It's a sign they still care and are trying to maintain a connection in the safest way they can. Recognizing this helps you understand the silent language of an avoidance affection. There is a paradox that many in avoidant attachment do not express. They begin to approach you when you let go. When you stop pursuing, stop sending messages, and cease trying to gain their attention, that is when they feel safer to reappear. This is a core mechanism of avoidant individuals. They cannot love under pressure, but they can move closer when pressure disappears. When you act proactively, cling, or constantly try to predict their thoughts, their brain immediately triggers an alert. Closeness equals risk. Research on attachment, Mikulincer and Shaver, 2016, shows that avoidant individuals develop distance-based defense mechanisms where increased pressure from the partner leads them to withdraw, not due to lack of affection, but because their nervous system protects them from emotional harm. The interesting part is, when you let go, when you remove the pressure, their brain interprets the environment as safe. At that point, suppressed desire, longing, and even guilt can surface. You may notice them texting again, sending subtle signals, or appearing to check if you are okay. This is the moment they begin to be genuine, while still maintaining composure and emotional armor externally. Bowlby's attachment theory, 1988, notes that avoidants balance two opposing needs: the desire for closeness and the need for self-protection. When you stop pursuing, you effectively reduce pressure on their nervous system, allowing them to lower defenses. This is not a game of push and pull or manipulation. It is a physiological and emotional mechanism that allows them to reveal authentic feelings without feeling vulnerable. In practice, many people feel confused when an avoidant returns only after they've stopped trying. You may feel a sense of loss, thinking you've given up, Yet that very pause creates the space for them to appear with genuine feelings. Understanding this mechanism helps you recognize that your silence is not failure, but a signal of safety. At this stage, emotional awareness becomes crucial. When they return, you can notice small steps, softer tone, subtle messages, or little actions that show effort to maintain connection. Mikulincer and Shaver describe this as the stage of safe approach readiness, where avoidants begin testing how much closeness they can tolerate. Emotionally, this moment is bittersweet. It contains a sense of loss because you had to step back, but also truthfulness, as they show all they can while still hesitant. It is the most crucial transition, from absolute defense to consciously testing connection. Therefore, when you notice an avoidant returning after a period of your silence, understand that they are not pursuing love through pressure or control, but seeking safety where they can be genuine without fear. Recognizing this mechanism allows you to avoid misinterpretation and self-blame, and understand this is the moment they are truly opening up and wanting to keep you close in their own way. There are moments when you realize that they are not coming back through words or direct actions, yet they are still seeking you in their own way. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, pursuit is not just about appearing or sending messages. Sometimes it is a process of silent self-development, understanding what they have lost, and preparing to be emotionally safe enough to reconnect if the timing allows. They read books, write in journals, reflect on past relationships, and analyze each decision they made. These actions may seem quiet, but in reality, they are a subtle growth mechanism, not aimed at drawing attention or controlling others, but at enhancing emotional awareness and appreciating the value of connections they once let slip away. Research by Mikulincer and Shaver, 2016, indicates that avoidant individuals often engage in a process called self-regulated growth, following relational losses. When they confront the sense of loss, rather than fleeing, they work to rebuild internal resources, managing emotions, understanding personal boundaries, and recognizing behaviors that have previously caused harm. This step is crucial in preparing themselves for healthier, more sustainable connections in the future. An avoidant person may not text or call, but careful observation reveals subtle changes. They begin to comprehend their own fears, realize that excessive withdrawal harmed the relationship, and work to address patterns they previously repeated. This is not done to reclaim you immediately. It is a process of listening to themselves, taking responsibility for their feelings and behaviors, and preparing a more mature version capable of loving without fear. This carries deep significance. To outsiders, they may appear silent or indifferent, but in truth, this is a silent yet valuable form of pursuit. They are investing in themselves not to catch your attention, but to ensure that, when they return, they will not repeat past mistakes. It reflects emotional responsibility and inner growth, a quiet yet profound expression of love. The emotions associated with this process are silent maturation, not measurable by concrete actions, but through psychological recharging, recognizing true needs, distinguishing them from fear-based reflexes, and learning to integrate both. Through this stage, avoidants come to understand that connection does not equal loss of freedom, and withdrawal is not the only form of self-protection. For those observing a relationship with an avoidant, this awareness can be pivotal. It reveals that silence or distance does not always signify indifference, but often signals an inner maturation process. Understanding this reduces confusion and anxiety, showing that love can exist silently, through self-awareness and growth, rather than immediate actions or words. Once avoidants complete this stage, they are not only ready to reconsider the relationship, but also become a version of themselves capable of mature love, maintaining connection while preserving safety for both themselves and their partner. This marks a critical shift from defense-driven love to conscious, responsible, and deeply valuable love. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this video. In today's journey, we explored how individuals with avoidant attachment pursue love in subtle, silent ways, from indirect appearances, mirroring your energy, to quietly working on themselves. We've seen that behind their aloofness or ambiguity lies a deep desire for connection intertwined with the fear of being hurt, and even the smallest actions carry quiet but genuine messages. The most important lesson is this: love should never make you lose your self-worth. Instead of chasing fleeting emotions or unclear signals, Choose to honor your right to respect, safety, and authentic love. Understanding these mechanisms helps you stop feeling confused or blaming yourself, and allows you to observe, empathize, and set healthy boundaries. I warmly invite you to share your thoughts or personal experiences in the comments. Doing so not only helps you reflect on your own emotions, but also builds a community where we can learn and grow together. If you found this content valuable, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more insightful videos to help you understand relationships and your journey of personal growth. Remember, every step you take to understand yourself and your emotions is a meaningful stride toward maturity and discovering true, conscious love.